So this is the last topic of this program, that is tele-rehabilitation. So before starting this session, I really thank the organizers to invite me here for and give this opportunity. And now I will like to ask audience, how many of you are doing tele-rehabilitation? Can you raise the hands? No one? Any time in your practice you did tele-rehabilitation? Okay. So I just tell you two terms which you need to remember, because very soon you really need to remember these terms. That one thing is Ayushman Bharat Health ABHM and आयुष्मान भारत डिजिटल मिशन. आपको ये दो टर्म्स याद करनी पड़ेंगी. आभा आईडी इज ए 14 डिजिट आईडी विच इज लिंक्ड टू आधार, by which a person is registered with this digital health mission, and he can upload his all health records for teleconsultations. So WHO defines telemedicine as the delivery of health service where distance is a critical factor by all healthcare professionals using information and communication technologies for exchange of valid information for the purpose of diagnosis, treatment and prevention of diseases and injuries. It can be used for research and further evaluation, for the continuing education of healthcare providers, which is also very important, all in the interest of advancing the health of individual and their communities. So this is how WHO defined telemedicine. And telemedicine is not a very new domain, but it's not well practiced. So after the guidelines for telemedicine practice published in March 2020, the launch of Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission in 2021 to provide digital health infrastructure, it merely accelerate the digital infrastructure in India, and it will roll out of eSanjeevani. So that is a real turning point for our digital health infrastructure in our nation. And it's a free to use telemedicine service, and it will work on base of a hub and spoke model. It is supported by, you can say, 154,000 Ayushman Bharat Health and Wellness Centers, which are earlier called as Ayushman Bharat Health and Wellness Centers. Nowadays they are called as Ayushman Arogya Mandirs. So these are the spokes, and the hub are the, you can say, the superior or tertiary care centers and district levels centers, which are equipped with telemedicine infrastructure. So it works in two forms. One is doctor to doctor consultation, that termed as eSanjeevani AB HCW, and patient to doctor, that is eSanjeevani OPD. So services e-health teleconsultation and assistance, a telemedicine portal for defense personnel is also available, which is called Sehat OPD, and it's only for defense personnels. And National AIDS Control Organization, that is NACO, and Alliance India are also working on a dedicated national telemedicine platform, that is eHIV Care. So these are the, you can say, the government portals. Apart from the unorganized, or you can say free to use apps and platforms of delivery of this telehealth, the commercial platforms widely used for video conferencing tools are Zoom, Skype. I'm sure many of you can come across during COVID times of this Google Meet. Most of the classes and online things are doing on the Google Meet only, and Zoom. So it can be adapted for tele-rehabilitation purposes. So the dedicated rehabilitation apps, specialized apps are also available, that is Tele-Rehab for stroke patients, Tele-Physio for older adults. They will offer features like self-rehabilitation exercises, video guidance and therapeutic educations. The mHealth app, that is mobile health applications, can incorporate communication modules, exercise libraries and tracking tools to manage therapy remotely. So what are the types and applications of telemedicine? According to the time of information transmitted, one first important thing, the teleconsultation is done on real time, or that is synchronous telemedicine, where the sender and receiver both are online at the same point of time, and live transfer of information occurs. That's what in eSanjeevani OPD is, we can see, and on Zoom or one-to-one and on Google Meets we can see. Store and forward, that is asynchronous telemedicine, where the sender store the information database and send it to the receiver at a convenient point of time, and the receiver can review the data according to his convenience. One such very common prevalent method is WhatsApp messages, which you will get in every morning, and they'll ask about the queries. Remote monitoring types of telemedicine, also known as self-monitoring or self-testing. That remote monitoring uses a range of technological devices, those are wearable devices also, to monitor health and clinical signs of a patient remotely. So one such example, like Holter monitoring, you have seen they'll put a Holter and then collect the data and then send the data to the receiver, and then they will identify what are the problem areas and then get back to the patient. So according to the interaction between the individuals involved, it is health professional to health professional and health professional to the patient. So this is the eSanjeevani model of Government of India and Ministry of Health and Welfare. So more or less the e-medicine, or you can say e-telemedicine, or your tele-rehab will work on this principle. So first there is registration token generation. It is very much organized thing. It's very different from your Zoom, Skype and Google Meet system. It's a Aadhaar based system, so they'll verify the user's OTP and fill patient registration form. Request token is generated, upload health records. So ABDM is going to really improve the system by giving the health records and based on a cloud system. So anyone can see who is dealing with the patient. If then receive a patient ID and token through SMS, then they'll wait for SMS then they will go to waiting room. So after entering waiting room, the call now button will get activated in some times and initiate a video call. Then finally, the last step is doctor will show up, consult the doctor, and finally get a e-prescription which can be downloaded. So this is the way eSanjeevani will work. So what is telerehabilitation? So you get to know about telemedicine. So what is telerehabilitation? It is defined as a delivery of rehabilitation service through various technologies which encompassing evaluation, assessment, monitoring, intervention and education aimed at providing accessible care for individuals with disabilities or functional impairments. It utilizes both synchronous and asynchronous communication methods to enhance coordination among healthcare professionals and patients. So till now I didn't see anyone using eSanjeevani for rehab professionals, but somehow I read somewhere that through Disha portal, it's been operated in Kerala for 2 days OPD. In North also, Lady Harding also initially doing the same thing, but during COVID, most of the Delhi hospital, they will deliver this you can say service through e-mode. So this is a ideal setup, and then real time monitoring is there, virtual assessments are there, and then home based exercises, and it's a weekly 2 or 3 sessions which are needed. So what is the purpose of telerehabilitation? Why we are doing such exercise? There are hospitals are existing, everything is there. So why we are doing this? So deliver telehealth by PMR providers for remote areas or those who cannot visit to expert. And as you see, this is really important because we are very less in number. So we can exponentially increase our presence, or we can show our presence at different, you can say different remote areas and we'll increase our reach to many folds if we use this method of treatment. So maximize and utilize the potential benefits, including access, the time saving, cost saving, and continuity of care. Sometimes compliance is very poor with our patients. Then continuous feedback loop mechanism is also there. We'll get feedback also for doctor also, for the patient also, and there is a scope of improvement is always there. And it has been supplemented with electronic health records, so you can go and recheck and then rectify yourself, and this is beneficial for patient also. It will assess the effectiveness of telerehabilitation compared to in-person. So moreover, there is some evidence is generated which shows they both are equally good. So they will outline the future directions for research practices in telehealth. So what are the you can say peculiar conditions which is addressed by telerehabilitation? We cannot address all clinical conditions with the telerehab treatment mode. So we can see the neurological conditions like stroke, multiple sclerosis, related disorders, musculoskeletal conditions like low back pain, osteoarthritis of the joints, and joint replacement. After joint replacement, we can take care a patient by the tele rehab method. Then cardiopulmonary rehabilitation, these two things I done myself, so I am very sure we can definitely do home-based programs by tele-rehab mode, and better compliance is there because in cardiac rehabilitation there is an attrition of 50% of the patients. Compliance is very poor, so by this we can ensure the better compliance and better participation. So broader applications potential across diverse rehabilitation needs you can use as and when required and as per your expertise. So how effective is this? So tele-rehabilitation demonstrates effectiveness comparable to traditional in-person rehabilitation across various conditions. I tested myself in two conditions, pulmonary and cardiac. It has to be initial assessment to be done physically, and then hybrid mode. I suggest hybrid is better. So few physical visits are there, then tele is good. So notably musculoskeletal disorders like osteoarthritis and neurological conditions such as stroke and multiple sclerosis, the evidence suggests it is consistently equal or offering significant clinical benefits. However, findings remain mixed in certain areas, highlighting the need for more rigorous large-scale studies and to strengthen the evidence and guide widespread implementation of such programs. Advantages, most important, and you can say the flexibilities and convenience. The patient and caregiver, as you say, where our patients who are dependent mostly, and caregiver benefit for scheduling flexibility at the convenience of their home and comfort of their home receiving treatment. This reduces the physical and emotional burden of hospital visits and allows greater adherence to the individualized rehabilitation program. It will definitely improve the compliance, and it will save a lot of money. So money is everything, you know. Then cost saving by reducing transportation, lodging and hospital facility expenses. Tele-rehab provides significant cost benefits to patients and health systems. It also minimizes productivity loss for working patients and reduces indirect healthcare related expenditure. I remember one of my patients who joined the office at the end of second month after post MI. So he was connected us with for a duration of 2 years. So this tele rehab mode definitely help him, and we have many testimonials of such kind of patients who really benefited well with this tele rehab service. So, and to maintain the continuity of care, of course, telehealth ensures uninterrupted rehabilitation during pandemics. We witness in the COVID times, most of the services, health services are given in the tele mode, or patient mobility restrictions if there is. It prevents treatment delays, maintain therapy progressions, and promotes better long-term outcome by keeping patients engaged in consistent rehabilitation therapies and improved access. So what this exercise we are doing for the remote patients who cannot visit, so it bridges the gap in healthcare delivery by enabling patients in rural, remote or underserved regions to consult specialists and receive timely therapy, and reducing travel barriers and ensuring equitable access to rehabilitation services. And I just want to add this advantage of tele here. Have you been have you checked the eSanjeevani portal? There is a message is reflecting of our PM Shri Narendra Modi. The message quote by quote is, I dream of digital India, where quality healthcare percolates right up to the remotest region powered by e-healthcare. So this is the message. And for us, since we are less in number, so definitely we use this method to get reach to the remotest of the patient and for our identification as a rehab specialist, because I can see on in Sanjeevani portal there's an orthopedician and an alternative therapy physicians are there, but no PMR physician, no consultation I have seen. The challenges, the technical issue, the successful delivery relies on consistent internet connectivity, which is very, very important, and digital devices, patient technological literacy, inadequate infrastructure or lack of training, which will create the barriers, limiting equitable adoption of telehealth services across the populations. Then clinical limitations, some rehabilitation aspects, especially manual therapies, physical assessments, we cannot do with that accuracy as a patient come physically to us, so, in this remote version. So the absence of direct physical interaction definitely can reduce accuracy, but with the time and with experience we can achieve this milestone also. Then safety concerns, without real time supervision patient may face risk. So while doing critical situations, managing the clinical conditions, we have to really cautious. We have to decide what are the do's and what are the don'ts, when to stop the therapy, when to stop the consultation. So these are really very imperial things before starting the tele-rehabilitation service. So handling medical emergencies remotely is again challenging. So we really need some backup for such things, and strong provider patient communication system and is very, very important before starting such kind of rehab practices. Then quality of evidence, many studies assessing tele-rehabilitation have small sample size or unclear methodology, but still there is a data which show that it's very effective, but stronger large scale trials are required to provide strong reliable evidence. This is just a pictorial depiction of the first picture shows the tele-rehabilitation, and the second the physical visit of the patient, and then it's a routine rehabilitation service. So consideration for implementation, for assessments, the remote tools and standardized protocols must ensure accurate clinical evaluation. So till now I prefer hybrid. I need 1 time or 2 times physically patient need to visit to me, and then we can continue with the tele mode. So reliable digital platforms are needed to capture patient progress, and after ABDM this becomes very simple because patient himself upload their data and records with the CHOs. So while maintaining the quality of in-person assessment in virtual care settings, the patient screening, not all patients are suitable for tele, as I already explained you. Then provider training, the clinicians who provide the tele service, then they need structured training in such platforms, the communication strategies and digital examination methods. So equipping providers with these skill enhances patient engagement, ensure accurate interventions and maintain high quality rehabilitation outcomes. Then privacy, security and regulation. The protecting patient health data is very crucial. We lose data, cyber security attacks, now such kind of new problems are also there. So adherence to medical regulation and robust consent procedures safeguard confidentiality of the data and building trust in telehealth practice among patients and providers. Then reimbursement, till now the tele thing is, you can say it's a free, but they are very soon PMJ and this ABDM system is coming where the private fellows also come into the picture. So I think insurance is also then been done by this method. So it has to be really, we should be very well versed with this method of the treatment. So technology infrastructure, robust internet connectivity, user-friendly devices and interoperable platforms are essential to deliver a good tele-rehab service. Investments in good infrastructure ensure reliable service delivery and minimize disruptions, especially in rural or resource-limited areas with limited technological access. So these are the 2 case studies I just want to highlight. We done in the pandemic time, study of the effectiveness of telemedicine-based pulmonary rehab in recovered patients of COVID-19 pneumonitis. We have plenty of post-COVID patients, so we need to really look after them. So we done it by telemedicine based. So those in the ICU, we'll directly contact them in ICU. After discharge, they'll connect us with the online mode once they are infection free. And basically more the patient time spent in the ICU, they are affected more and they'll get more benefit and they'll connected us with a longer period of time. So this time we done not through eSanjeevani, we done through Zoom platforms, and it's 1:1 and then WhatsApp group communications. So this is the way we do this tele-rehabilitation. This is our pulmonary rehab room setup from where we do the all tele consultation. There is a camera setup, and this is a whole room where the exercise equipments are there. We'll show the patient directly, we'll connect them, and they'll see at live real time 3 sessions in a week we are scheduled. So we didn't lose the patient, and patient religiously do, and definitely the outcome was good and they'll get the benefit. And for their part, we just give them protocols, what they need to do and what they do not need to do. And we just, before talking to patients, we will also talk the caretaker also to when to stop. They need some oxygen cylinders or whatever precautionary measures or handy numbers for hospital referrals if they need. So this is a real time, you can say, teleconsultations we done with the patients. Then there are some physical patients also. So one, you can say this patient is doing exercise with glass bottles, he is not having dumbbells also, so we can give this kind of liberty to patients. The second case study of our center is efficacy of neuromuscular training we done in the osteoarthritis patient via the means of tele-rehabilitation. So it's again we can say do 12 weeks. For first 2 weeks we'll give 1 sessions, then twice, you can say 2 to 3 sessions in a week. So it is again effective, and we found literally very no difference, and patients are happy, compliance is good. So for neuromuscular training in osteoarthritis knee, our experience is good with this tele-rehabilitation method. So both the studies are published in PubMed, and we are happy to. For further resources, you can go through the International Journal of Tele-Rehabilitation. You'll get plenty of data, and PMJ, ABDM, eSanjeevani platforms, these are the platforms you can go and see the further resources, how this work, and what is the best and things, and what are the difficulties and how to improve. So what are the research gaps and future directions? We need systemic reviews. For future research should include rigorous systemic reviews and meta-analysis with low risk of bias. Then cost effectiveness, we need to find out, studies must evaluate the economic impact of tele-rehabilitation because it will save a lot of money. Then high quality trials are required, and hybrid models. I prefer hybrid models for rehab services because if patients show up to you for 1 or 2 visits, you will build the confidence of patient in yourself, and the physical touch is obviously very much required to seeing a patient, and afterwards you can give it further consultation to the tele modes. So hybrid mode I prefer most whenever possible. So what are the implications for clinicians? Tele-rehab can be integrated into daily practice through virtual consultations, remote monitoring, and patient education. Clinicians must adapt communication, assessment methods. Assessment is a little difficult, but you can achieve. And treatment strategies to maintain high quality, personalized and effective rehabilitation services. For health systems, successful adoptions require investment in digital infrastructure, staff training, supportive policies, reimbursement frameworks. Organizations must prioritize data security, equity of access, and standardized protocols, which is very, very important for the success of a tele-rehab program to ensure its sustainability and to scalable integration of the telehealth. So to conclude, implementation, effective adoption requires addressing technological, clinical and policy challenges. Ensuring safety, quality, equity and provider readiness is essential to maximize benefits and establish telehealth as a sustainable model of rehabilitation care. To summarize my talk, telehealth in physical medicine shows strong potential, often matching in-person rehabilitation outcomes across various conditions. It is particularly valuable in expanding access for patients in underserved, remote or mobility restricted setting. These are my references, and this is my information booklet for pulmonary tele-rehab. So the last thing I want to just say, wherever we need to do or deliver tele-rehab, we must use eSanjeevani wherever possible because it will generate data, it will show your presence, because when you use Google Meet, Skype, Zoom, nowhere this data is going. After this ABDM thing, whatever patients you see with your name, how much teleconsultations you've done, it will be reflected in the government index, and it will show your presence of the specialty. And if you can say many specialists are doing and the alternative therapists are doing, so orthopedics and physiotherapists are already there. So I think we should show our presence on such kind of modes, and better we show our presence on the government modes. That will be really helpful for our specialty.
I am Dr. Aditya. I am a resident in SMS. Ma'am, I come from a state of Tripura, which is a northeastern state. And in my state, usually the patients are located in remote areas, which are hilly stations. And the doctors who are consulting, they have to go in those areas where the connectivity, as you mentioned in your presentation, where the internet connectivity is very scarce, and also there are many other hardships also. I have two questions, ma'am. First question is, you were saying that the eSanjeevani portal can be used, where the patient can use the mobile. Can the doctor also use mobile to access that?
Definitely, you can use mobile. I think very soon there is a app is already there. So they basically doctors they will do this from a dedicated setups. But I think from mobile it is a two-way communication. Doctor can also register on the mobile also. But they are given some workstation and then operators for a proper system and flawless experience to the patient. Because if you are also on mobile and patient is also on mobile, then sometimes there is a loss of connectivity.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
that is the idea behind. But I think all the mobiles, you can say all the apps you can access from mobile.
Ma'am, my second question is, ma'am, being a PMR resident, after sometimes I'll become a specialist. When I take this eSanjeevani portal in my state, ma'am, the first thing that comes in my mind as a challenge is digital examination. Ma'am, say for example, I am in a rural health center and I am examining a patient who is in remote village, and I want to do digital examination. Ma'am, how to go about it? We would either need a doctor or a specialist or a trained someone.
No.
Patient cannot access, do the thing in mobile and give us. That would be.
See, after this ABDM has come into the system in eSanjeevani, there is a CHO and ASHA workers also. They have a reach to the patient. They will go and collect the data of the patient, and then they will help the patient to get registered and with the Aadhaar ID, and they will upload this electronic health record to a doctor. And if you are suppose you are the PSC, CSC or a small center, definitely you will get a reach of this patient, or once a while patient will come to you. And then you are the key person who will connect to tertiary care centers. So this is the way, but digitally I already say that that much accuracy we cannot achieve.
Yes,
but
yes.
If everyone else, if a dentist is giving treatment on you can say digital mode, what thing is stopping to you?
Yes, ma'am, yes.
So I think I know you are a good expert and you will be not 100% accuracy, but if you will achieve some sort of accuracy, so that will serve the purpose, because we are going to treat the masses.
That is why I think, because Dr. Suman was telling she is more comfortable in a hybrid mode and she would like to see the patient at least once, so have that in mind. But even if like if you have a spinal cord injury patient whom you have admitted once and you have the picture in mind, you know the patient, and if you are able to do a follow-up tele-consultation, you will save so much of money, so much an effort. Because see, if somebody is leaking and he has to travel all the way from a village to hospital, probably with a taxi, and the normal taxi, somebody, they will charge 3,500, but he's a paraplegic, they will charge 7,500. So then he has to come from that village to you, wait in the line, spend the whole day, and then get an oxybutynin for 5 rupees tablet, and for that he has to spend 7,500. So in our scenario where the accessibility to health is a question, this is the next step. I think that we seriously should think about it. The other thing about the examination is there is actually an article, how to do musculoskeletal examination in tele rehab consultation. So you can actually go and have a look at that article, and it actually explains how functionally you can see. Another thing is, if an orthopedic surgeon can do it, why can't you do it?
Thank you, sir. That was the message I want to convey. Thank you.